This bag full of extras that I had made to go into the album. Well, not album really. And it was in this bag. And this bag, I don't know if you can see inside. Let's see if you can see inside. It's full of the scraps. The men that picked me up gave me this plastic bag to put all my stuff in, and I chucked everything in, including the shells that I had collected on the shore, which I didn't put into the album. But I also wanted to show you this. This is what I used when I used my spray gun. I sprayed in here, and then I coloured the different things by spraying in there. Okay, so I'm going to show you what was in the bag of goodies that was supposed to go into the album in the end, as well as some pictures which I'm going to make up as I go along. So the most important thing in this bag, but I've got everything out. Most important thing in this bag, I made it up myself, is this booklet, and it was my craftology notebook. Okay, and in it I went through the days that I was on the island, and I want to go through it as quickly as possible because I've only got 15 minutes with YouTube. So I had to glue the pages together, as I showed you earlier in the other book, that the Sharpie showed through. So day one, I made the cover out of a bag I had to that I had bought the t-shirt in. So you saw the bag in the first video. Day two, I sprayed and cut and ripped the pages after making some stencils, which I showed you as well. Day three, decided to write, only to find out that the Sharpie went through the paper to the other side. Hope my paper holds out until I'm rescued around the 17th. You're probably wondering how I know it's the 17th. Well, Nik the Booksmith told me. Day four, today I glued the pages, these pages together so that I could, whoops, it's stuck again, so I could use the Sharpie pen, and it won't go through. I also wrote a long sheet of my arrival, but I seem to have lost that, and I practiced my flower making. Oops. And this was a disaster, as you can see here. Number one flower. In fact, I did find it in the same place, and I put it in my journal. So I decided to put into effect all these things I've learned from, starts here. I'm deserted on this island. I was the oldest person to be washed up on these shores, and the only one with a stack of stuff to keep me occupied until rescued. Yes, I was with a group of people who found a lifeboat from the ship, but it couldn't take us all, so I got left behind. They were kind enough to build me a shelter and to bring fresh water in coconut shells from the freshwater lake, and so the wait begins. So I decided to put into effect all the things that I'd learned from the marvellous YouTube people, craft people, and make as many things as I can from the paper to use up all the waiting time. Okay, so maybe I should draw them, the flowers, not not good at drawing. Another disadvantage of the Sharpie pen is that I write too big and will run out of paper before the 17th. Day 5. I was afraid I'd lost my needle. Sorry, that should be lost my needle. So I made a bag and promised myself to keep it in front of my journal always, as I'm normally a scatterbrain and spend loads of time hunting for things, which I did. As you saw earlier, I wasn't very good at showing you because I was nervous, but inside here is the needle. Oh, I've just lost it, just dropped on the floor. But it's the bag. But the strange thing about this bag, I don't know if you can see, but it looks like there's a person, my guardian angel, looking after me. So the 6 and 7 I decided to draw a map, so instead of sitting here mulling over the time, I went for a walk around. And it's a good island to be deserted on, as it has a little of everything. Seawater, lake for swimming in, seawater lake for swimming in and washing my clothes, some mountains that have freshwater spring water, which leads to freshwater lake, but that area is swampy, so I didn't want to bathe there, or I don't want to bathe there. I think it's about 10 miles from my camp in the north, where there are some coconut trees and my shelter. So I showed you the map quickly in the other time. There's my camp. It's a freshwater lake. That's the lake I go swimming in. And here are the mountains with a freshwater stream coming down from the mountains on both sides. Day 8 is a lazy day. Probably I'm a little lonely. So a childish picture of a mermaid and dolphin. Will I still love living by the sea when I get home? Yes, I think I'll never stop loving the sea. Day 9, decided to use my cord as a net. So if you remember, I had this big roll of cord and catch fish. It's longer than I thought, and I get as it's longer than I thought that I would get rescued, so I made this. We'll draw a better one when I get home. Day 10, feeling industrious, so I decided to make some fishing sailor knots and decorate my book. Not much time though, as I had to look for firewood. So somewhere amongst the stencils, here are the stencils that I made, that I told you. Well, one of them, the other ones are in the book. This is a nice one that I should have put in the book too. Pieces of paper left over here. Where are my little knots? There's one little knot there, but there should be a Celtic knot somewhere. I can't find it again. Should have come out with the rest of it. Well, never mind, it's around. I will stick it in the book sometime. Okay, so where am I? Day 11, decided to have another go at flowers, a bit better, but lost my needle. Oh, what shall I do? What without it? Oh, my flower dies. Day 12, phew, found my needle. It was inside the paper bag I made for it, and it's right at the join, so I didn't feel it. It's raining today, so I can't do much. I have to protect the fire so it doesn't go out. It's uncomfortable, but a relief. from the sun. Laid out my coconut shells to catch water to save me the trek to fresh water. Had a shower in the rain to help wash my clothes in the fresh water too. Day 13. Feeling a bit weird today after yesterday's shower made me homesick. Full moon, so I made some trim paper for the junk journal. As you can see, my sewing is not that good, but I made a little trim to put in. As I lost all this, I needed to put it in the junk journal now that I'm home. Day 14, shouldn't have wasted my paper like that, but maybe Nick doesn't manage... maybe Nick doesn't manage to find us all stranded on deserted islands. Made a tassel today, pretty, pleased with it. So I made a big one for my journal. Here's the little tassel. Sorry, can you see? Alright. It was quite nice. So... and these are the cut-offs here, I stuck here from the tassel. Made up some paper beads, not as easy as shown on YouTube. Attached them to my tassel and a couple of flowers, left them to dry in the sun, and which has come back full force. So here's my beautiful tassel to go onto the album. Keep calling an album journal. I'm so used to making albums. Those are my paper beads that I made, and the couple of paper flowers I made to go on it. So it should look quite nice hanging off the journal like that. Okay. Right, day 16. Once again I have loads of work, looking for firewood, and getting water and go fishing again. So only time to make some banners and weave some scraps together. Decided there's a black dot on the horizon. Hope it's not a storm coming along, as I just couldn't defend myself against it in any way. Day 17. The weaving seemed a bit boring, so I got tired of doing it. I don't know where I put it now either. Oh, here it is. And I found one of my knots. Oops, sorry. Didn't mean that. And now you're a little bit out of focus. Sorry. Here was my weaving. I found it a little bit boring, so I didn't do very much. Here's one of my knots that I've done. Not very good, but it was keeping me occupied. So I tried a bit of sewing. As you can see, it's not very good, and here as well I did a bit of sewing instead. The black dot has turned out to be a rescue boat for me. Whoopee! So I have to go. I have to grab everything and go. Must remember everything. Oh, I've just remembered.